right
Tim
now.
Cook just said that 9 million developers were added to the Apple ecosystem this year. How hard is it to find a good Apple developer?
Extremely hard. I think most companies like ours are really focused on training people who are previously experts in a different platform to be experts in iOS and Android. When I was the chief technology officer of Facebook, we actually started a formal set of classes where engineers could attend for a sort of an intensive handful of week period where they would actually learn Android and iOS development. There's so much demand for these products, and just due to the fact that the iPhone was launched in 2007, I mean, there can only be so many experts in that period of time. So,
how many? So, you given the Facebook experience, I wonder how much of a heads up, how much help Apple gives in terms of sort of saying this is our direction behind the scenes. I mean, I know Facebook's relationship with Apple was kind of difficult there for a while.
You know, not a lot of direction. I mean, simply because Apple is such a notoriously secretive company, and I think, you know, the moment they start talking to partners, the moment we're all talking about it prior to the speech.
Right.
And so even I wouldn't say it was better or worse at a large company. They're just a very, very, you know, closed company. You'll notice, you know, there'll be a handful of companies that worked with them on the product launches, but you know, those, you know, number in the 4 or 5 companies per release, and so you know, we don't get a lot of direction, but we're usually pretty happy with the results. So.
How do you get to be one of those? I just really want to know how you get to be one of those companies that works with Apple on the release of an app like that.
You know, I can speak from personal experience. When Facebook was integrated into iOS 7, it was largely due to sort of, you know, high-level discussions about wanting the companies to work more closely together. Right. On the smaller releases, they tend to work with sort of independent software vendors, smaller shops. You know, a lot of game companies that are, yeah, I mean, just companies I believe that just Apple employees respect due to the quality of their products and, you know, feel like they can trust.
Now, Craig Federighi, the Senior Vice President of Software Engineering, is on stage right now. He's talking about OS X, the desktop operating system. You know, how important is advancement and improvement in the desktop, given that mobile is where the growth is happening? Joe?
It's huge. You can't ignore the desktop. Yes, mobile's very, very hot, but like millions and millions of us go to work each day and we're not all staring at smartphones. Like, I work at a pretty tech-forward company and I have an iMac. I'm not sitting there on an iPad with a keyboard. It's really important because at this point, you know, power is still your limiting factor when it comes to getting things done on a sort of enterprise level. And that's power both in terms of processing power and also electricity. So if you have an unconnected, untethered device, you're probably not going to have as much battery life as you would. Well, you have an infinite battery life if you're plugged in, but also just the ability to run big apps like Photoshop and some of the analytics programs that we use at Wired.
I always use a line that every producer and every editor who ever edited the words, "the PC is dead," did it on a PC. So that probably is not the case. And I wonder particularly for you, Joe, because I know that you see sort of more gadgets than your average human. You know, I was talking to a friend who's a contractor recently. He said that he went to this show in Las Vegas and saw all these phone-controlled locks and security cameras and dimmable LEDs and stuff all over the home. Is that stuff really exploding right now, and why?
It's exploding from a company perspective. I think we have yet to see widespread adoption of it. The problem is that it's easy for you to go to the store and pick up a new cell phone. It's not as easy to pick up a new light switch. You have to get that installed.
Apple has officially unveiled the next generation of their desktop operating system, and it is indeed called Yosemite.
Somebody owes me $5.
You were right.
Did someone really take the other side of that bet? Come on.
It's a big town.
They've also trademarked California, Redwood. It could have been any number of things.
Sur.
You picked it.
Well, there's El Capitan is hanging right in there.
But how important is this next generation of the desktop operating system going to be for you, Bret? You know, given that you're really working on how people work at home and work.
You know, I think there's two things that we think about. You know, one is that even though the PC is shrinking relative to the tablet and smartphone, it's still extremely important. And because of that, I think that Apple's in a unique position because their laptops are well regarded and outpacing the sales of most vendors' laptops, you know, even though Windows still has dominant market share in PCs. And I think they're in an interesting position with developers where Microsoft's relationship with developers has waned dramatically over the past few years. And I think there's an opportunity to really take all the energy they have around iOS development and channel that towards their desktop operating system. And if, like me, you believe that products like Quip should work seamlessly across these devices, I'd rather work with Apple because I already work with them. And I think that's a really interesting strategic position to be in.